Hi, I'm Jack Remmer. 13 years ago, I was declared dead in Afghanistan. Closed casket, military funeral. My wife cried. My brother delivered the eulogy. Then he married her, raised my son as his own, wore my clothes, took my name off the mailbox. I wasn't dead, I was buried alive, erased by a black ops program that trained me, broke me, then tossed me like trash when I asked the wrong questions. They thought I'd disappear. But I came back, and when I did, I found out why they needed me gone. Now let me ask you something. If your own blood signed your death, what would you do next? Ellipsis. I opened my eyes to the sound of nothing. No footsteps, no humming lights, no machines beeping like the ones you see in hospitals. Just a flat, sterile silence, so thick it seemed to coat my skin. I was lying on a cot. Thin mattress, metal frame. The room had no windows, no visible door, and no mirror. That last part stuck out. There's always a mirror. Even in the worst places they put a shard of glass somewhere so you can remember you still exist. Here, I was no one, nothing, not even a reflection. My body ached in ways I didn't recognize. Not the old wounds. I remembered those. These were newer, muscle atrophy, long-term sedation, the kind of pain you don't get from war, but from being locked away so long your cells forget they were once human. The walls were off-white, not quite yellow, not quite gray. A drain sat in the center of the floor like a bad promise. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a cold halo. I blinked. That alone felt like an act of rebellion. How long had it been since I last saw the sun? Since I last heard my own voice out loud? I tried to speak, but all that came out was a dry rasp. The name came a moment later. Jack Remmer. That was me. I said it in my head. Once, then again, like a kid whispering a secret. Jack Remmer. I was Delta Force. Or, I had been. We were deployed near the Waziristan border in 2007. The mission was classified. We were chasing something, someone. And then something went wrong. That's where the memory cut off. Like a film reel sliced in half. After that, just a blur. Darkness. Injections. Static. People in lab coats. Voices behind mirrored glass. Pain. Numbness. Silence. And now this. I sat up slowly, every vertebra creaking like rusted hinges. My clothes were standard issue. Gray jumpsuit. No tags. No name. No boots. Just socks in the tile floor. Cold enough to make me doubt I'd ever be warm again. A minute passed, then another. I had no watch, but in places like this, time isn't measured, it drips. Then came the sound. A hiss, soft and clinical. The wall in front of me cracked open down the middle, and light spilled in like floodwater. My eyes stung. The world beyond was white, brighter than I remembered the world ever being. A man stepped in, suit, medical gloves. Eyes that didn't blink enough. He looked at me like I was a report on his desk that refused to close itself. You're ready, he said. I didn't answer. He moved closer and held up a syringe. I shook my head. It's just vitamins, he said, without a trace of irony. He injected me anyway. When he finished, he handed me a small white envelope. No name, no logo, just a seal. I didn't open it. There's a car waiting, he said. Where am I? You're free. That word hit wrong, like a wrong note on a piano in a funeral home. Free? I followed him into the hall. No cameras, no guards, no alarms, just that blinding sterile silence again. After a few turns, we arrived at a metal door. He typed in a code. The lock released. Outside was dusk, cold air, a road I didn't recognize. A black sedan idled a few feet away. The driver didn't look at me. He just popped the trunk and got in. Inside the trunk, a duffel bag, folded clothes, a passport with my name, and a wallet filled with clean bills. No ID, no cards, just cash. I stood there for a long minute. The man behind me said, "Start over, Jack." I turned to him. "You erased me." He didn't flinch. "You gave us permission." I was sedated. That's not how the paperwork reads. I held his gaze. He blinked first. I took the bag and got in the car. The driver pulled off without a word. No music, no GPS, just miles of road disappearing into the rearview. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. An address, handwritten, 1279 Oak Drive, Bozeman, Montana. That was home. Or had been. I stared out the window. Trees passed in a blur. Distant power lines. A gas station where nobody stopped. If this was freedom, it sure as hell felt like exile. For the first time in 13 years, I had a destination. I also had nothing left to lose. That address, Bozeman, was supposed to be a place where I belonged. But I was about to learn, nothing that used to be mine, was mine anymore. The car pulled into Bozeman just as the sun dipped behind the mountains. Montana looked the same as I remembered, wide skies, pine trees bending in the wind, that crisp air that always felt like it could cut glass. But something was different, or maybe it was me. 13 years of shadows don't wash off easy. We passed a sign that said "Welcome to Bozeman, Est, 1864. I used to feel something when I saw that sign. Now, it felt like a gate to someone else's memory. The driver didn't speak once. When we reached Oak Drive, he slowed to a crawl, then stopped. I got out. The house was still there. 2 stories, white siding, black shutters, porch swing where I used to drink coffee every Sunday morning. I built that porch myself, back when my hands only knew how to hold nails and not rifles. But there were new things, too. Wind chimes, a bike leaning against the garage, a fresh coat of paint. I stepped closer. The porch light flicked on. Inside, silhouettes moved. A woman walked into view, her hair tied back in a way I knew by muscle memory. She laughed, turned toward a man I hadn't seen in over a decade. Sean. My little brother. He was pouring wine. He wore my flannel. And she, Emily, was wearing the necklace I gave her the night before I deployed. They looked like a photograph. The kind you find in magazines that tell you life is perfect if you just buy the right toothpaste. I stood there in the dark, frozen between footsteps. Then the kid ran into view. A boy, maybe 8, maybe 9. He had dark hair and a mouth that moved fast. He bounced a soccer ball off his knees, kicked it into the hallway, and chased after it with a laugh that cracked something open in my chest. He looked just like me. Or like I did when I was that age. My legs nearly gave out. I took a step back, but the porch creaked, the swing swayed slightly. Inside, Emily turned, her face tilted toward the window like she'd sensed something. I moved into the shadow before she could see me. Not yet. I couldn't walk through that door. Not without answers. I turned away and walked to the corner store. It was still open, same old flickering sign. Frank's Groceries. The smell of stale jerky and burned coffee hit me like a time machine. I bought a pack of gum just to keep my hands busy. At the counter, the old man squinted at me. Jack? I froze. Mikey? He leaned forward. Jesus Christ, man, you're supposed to be dead. Yeah, I said quietly. Been hearing that a lot lately. He looked like he'd aged 20 years since I last saw him. Same trucker cap. Same nicotine-stained fingers. You look like hell. I feel worse. He glanced around, then said, Come to the back. In the storage room, he locked the door behind us and opened an old mini-fridge. Not beer, just files. He pulled out a dusty flash drive and handed it to me. Couple months after they declared you dead, a guy in a suit came through, asked about you, left this behind, said if I ever saw you again, I should give it to you. What's on it? He shook his head, didn't ask, didn't want to end up like you. I took it, cold, heavy, like it knew it held something dangerous. Before I left, Mikey grabbed my arm. Sean's Dia now, he said, promoted fast, too fast. Word is, he made someone disappear. He didn't have to say it. We both knew who that someone was. I walked out of that store like a ghost. Back into the night. The stars were out now. but they felt farther away than they used to. Back at the motel, I checked into under a fake name. I plugged the flash drive into my burner laptop. It wasn't just files. It was everything. Photos, reports, psychological evaluations, authorization memos. One in particular caught my eye. Subject: Remmer, Jack. Status: removed. Authorization: S. Remmer. My hands clenched. Sean hadn't just replaced me. He'd signed my death. That wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. I closed the laptop. For the first time since waking up in that windowless cell, I felt something sharp, something alive. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was war. He thought he erased me. But ghosts always find a way home. And I was just getting started. Ellipsis. I didn't sleep. The motel bed was stiff. And the room smelled like bleach trying to cover up the smell of mold. I sat by the window all night, watching headlights pass like ghosts that forgot where they were going. My mind kept circling back to the file, to Sean's name typed in clean government font, his signature on the death of his own brother. I wasn't ready to believe it when I saw him standing next to Emily. I wanted to think maybe it was a mistake, that somehow, life just happened in the wrong direction and left me behind. But the flash drive made it real. He signed the order. He killed me on paper. I needed to know why. And I needed someone to help me make sense of what came next. I remembered a name: Jonas Heller. Jonas had been a comms guy on our team, smart, paranoid, and always 2 steps ahead of every order. If anyone knew about Fort Pendleton, or Ghost Code, it would be him. Last I heard, Jonas was living in a trailer just outside Belgrade, 20 minutes west of Bozeman. Word was, after he left the army, he went off the grid, talk radio, prepper forums, ham radio frequencies, the kind of guy people laughed at, until the world turned the corner and he was right all along. I left the motel just after 6 a.m., before the sun had the guts to rise. I used the old truck I found behind the gas station, hotwired it with a screwdriver and luck. The drive out was quiet. Montana looked innocent at that hour, frost on the fields. A couple deer nosing around the edge of the highway. But I couldn't stop glancing in the rear view. Ghosts don't always ride alone. When I pulled up to Jonas's trailer, it looked like the government had already tried to forget it existed. Rust, satellite dishes, a busted antenna leaning sideways like a drunk soldier. I knocked 3 times. Nothing. Then I said through the door, Echo 17. That did it. Locks clicked. 3, maybe 4 of them. Then the door cracked, and Jonas peeked out, shotgun in hand, bathrobe wrapped around him like a shield. Holy shit, he said, you're real. Unfortunately. He stepped aside and let me in. The inside was chaos, but organized chaos. Binders, maps, hard drives, shortwave radios. The walls were covered in red thread and pins like a serial killer's conspiracy board. Jonas sat down hard on a crate labeled "Do Not Open." Jack, man. They said you were vaporized. I was. He blinked. What happened? I was part of a black project. Ghost Code, mind wipe, isolation. They erased me. And then? They let me go. Jonas scratched his beard. Nobody walks out of Ghost Code. I didn't walk. I was dumped. I handed him the flash drive. He plugged it in, eyes scanning fast. Damn, he muttered. This is real. I need more. He pointed to a folder on the wall labeled Pendleton. Everything I've got is in there. But Jack, if they let you out, it means they're already hunting you again. Nobody escapes the file. I don't plan on hiding. He nodded slowly, like he already knew that. You still got hands? He asked. I held them up. He tossed me a 9mm from under a couch cushion. Good, you'll need him. We spent hours going through the documents. Names I didn't recognize. Some I did. Missions scrubbed from public records. Soldiers like me, turned into assets, then liabilities, then ghosts. Only I was the one who came back. That night, Jonas offered me the couch. I took the floor. It felt more honest. At 3 a.m., someone tried to break in. 3 men, black gear, No insignia. I was up before the first foot hit the porch. Jonas was already at the back window with a rifle. We didn't talk. We didn't need to. They came through fast, silent, like shadows with orders. But I was faster. One down with a knee to the throat. One I put through the front door with a chair leg. The third ran when Jonas fired a warning shot that cracked open the sky. 10 seconds. Done. No sirens. No neighbors. We cleaned up, burned the gear, disappeared by sunrise. Jonas looked at me as we buried the evidence under a tarp. "You're not supposed to be here," he said. "I know. They'll send more. I hope they do." He lit a cigarette and looked out at the empty field. "You going after Sean?" I didn't answer. But he already knew. The past wasn't dead, it was waiting. And Sean? He wasn't just part of the story, he was the reason it started. Ellipsis. Sean answered the door like he'd been expecting me. No hesitation, no surprise, just that practiced, neutral expression I remembered from when we were kids and he got caught lying but knew no one could prove it. "Jack," he said calmly. He didn't move aside, just stood in the doorway of the house that used to be mine. "I need to talk to you," I said. He glanced back inside, quickly, subtly, then stepped out and pulled the door closed behind him. The porch light cast a soft glow across his face. He looked older, but not worn, comfortable, like someone who'd never missed a meal or a good night's sleep since the day I disappeared. He folded his arms. "You shouldn't be here." "Believe me," I said, "I didn't plan on coming back." He nodded once. Then, "Emily doesn't know." I saw her face through the window. "I think she does." A long pause. Sean sighed. "You want to come inside?" "No." I didn't trust myself not to break something. Or someone. We walked out to the edge of the driveway. Away from the porch. A breeze kicked up, cold and sharp. The trees whispered things I didn't want to hear. "I found the file," I said. "Your name's on it." His eyes didn't flinch. "I figured you would. You signed the order." "I signed a lot of things, Jack. That one had my name on it." He rubbed his jaw. "Look, you don't understand what was happening back then. You were compromised. The reports were clear. I was sedated. You were dangerous." I laughed, short, bitter. "To who?" "To yourself. To your team. You were unraveling." "You mean I asked questions?" He didn't deny it. "I trusted you," I said. He looked away. "You were my brother." "I still am." "No," I said. "You stopped being my brother the day you took my place." That landed, a small crack in his armor. "You think I wanted this?" he said. "You think I planned for all this to happen? You married my wife. She wasn't your wife anymore. You raised my son." He hesitated. Then said quietly, "He needed a father. He had one." I stepped closer. We were face to face now. The years between us shrank down to nothing. All the memories, the laughter, the fights, the promises, weighed against this one moment. He didn't back down. "Look," he said, "I did what I had to do. You were gone. You were never coming back. I didn't kill you, Jack. The system did. I just lived with it." "And what now?" I asked. "Now that I'm back?" He exhaled slowly. "That depends on you." I looked at him, really looked. Sean wasn't evil. He wasn't twisted or unhinged. He was efficient, cold, a man who made peace with his choices and expected the world to do the same. "You're part of it now," I said. "Fort Pendleton, ghost code." He didn't answer. Which was answer enough. "I want you to stay away from Emily," I said. "She's my wife." "No, she's the last part of me I'm willing to protect without drawing blood." He held my stare, and for a second, I saw something shift in him. Not fear, not guilt. Resentment. "You think you get to come back and rewrite everything," he said, "but the world doesn't wait. Jack, it moves on. People move on. We don't get to hit undo." "No," I said, "but we do get to choose what we burn down." We stood there in silence. Two men who shared a past, a name, and nothing else. Then he said, "They'll be watching you now. If you dig any deeper, they'll come." "They already did," I said, Didn't go well for them. A flicker of concern. He masked it quickly, but I saw it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. Slid it toward me. Private number. One-time use. If you change your mind. I won't. He turned and walked back to the house. I stood there a while longer, letting the cold set into my bones. My fingers curled around the card before I dropped it into the gutter. As I walked away, I knew one thing for sure. Sean didn't fear me yet. But he would. The gloves were off now, and if Sean was part of the machine, I'd dismantle it, one piece at a time. Ellipsis. The road to Fort Pendleton wasn't on any map. Jonas and I took back roads through frozen farmland, switchbacks through pine-covered hills, and miles of gravel that crunched under the tires like bones. No road signs, no GPS, just coordinates etched into a notebook that smelled like gun oil and bad memories. The place had officially shut down in 2012. But Ghost Code? That never really shuts down. It just moves deeper underground. Jonas sat next to me, riding shotgun, flipping through a folder of declassified documents he said fell off a truck. I didn't ask how. He pointed out the window at a narrow path cutting into the hills. That's it. You sure? No, but I've been wrong before and lived. That was good enough. We parked a mile out and moved on foot. Branches snapped under our boots. A crow screeched somewhere to the left. The air smelled like burnt ozone and cold steel. The deeper we went, the quieter the world became. And then, like stepping behind a curtain, we saw it. A concrete structure, half buried into the earth, disguised as an old weather station. Faded signage, rusted antenna, but the motion sensors still blinked red behind broken glass. This is it, I said. Jonas nodded, clutching the duffel bag tight. Inside, lockpicks, EMP pucks, a shortwave scrambler, and a backup pistol. We circled the structure. No guards, no cameras we could see. But the silence was too clean, too perfect. Place smells like cover-up, Jonas muttered. We found a back entrance beneath a tarp of dead pine needles. The keypad had been pried open, wires exposed. Someone else had come through here. Recently. I didn't like that. We entered slowly. The hallway stretched ahead like the throat of something ancient. Fluorescent lights flickered. The air was dry and dead, like it hadn't been breathed in years. But the power was still on. Ghosts don't need light, only the ones watching them do. We moved room to room. Labs, holding cells, observation decks. Every inch felt like déjà vu laced with vertigo. I didn't remember being here, but my body did. I paused outside a steel door labeled Subject. Echo 17. My chest tightened. Jonas looked at me. That's you. Inside, the room was empty except for a gurney bolted to the floor. Leather straps hung limp at the sides. The walls were coated in soundproof foam. A mirror, two-way, sat cracked in the far corner. And on the wall, carved into the plaster by a fingernail or a broken tooth. Still here, still me. I ran my hand over the letters. Not just mine. Other soldiers had been here too. Each one labeled, stripped, rewritten, then erased. Jonas found the main server room. He booted it up and dumped the drive contents into his laptop. That's it, he whispered. Name lists, test logs. They kept it all. Then he paused. Oh hell? What? He turned the screen toward me. Authorization. S. Remmer. Operation. White Winter. Objective. Silence Echo 17. Status. Incomplete. Sean didn't just sign off on my removal. He issued a follow-up. They weren't trying to forget me. They were trying to finish me. Suddenly, a loud pop echoed through the building. Jonas dropped behind the console. I drew the pistol. Footsteps. 2, maybe 3, soft-soled, tactical, moving fast. They're here, I said. We had 90 seconds, maybe less. Jonas pulled the drive. I'll blow the server, he said. EMP, no traces. You run, I hold them. You'll die. Already did once. He hesitated, then nodded and sprinted down the hall. I stayed low, weapon up, heart slow. They came in through the east corridor. One in front, two covering behind, suppressed rifles, matching gear, silent, like professionals. But I was more than that. I was personal. The first one didn't see me in the dark. I took him down with a shot to the knee, another to the throat. His body thudded like dead meat on cold tile. The second fired, grazed my arm, but I'd already closed distance. Slammed his head into the wall hard enough to paint it. The third retreated. I let him. Let them know Echo 17 wasn't a myth. I limped back outside 10 minutes later, bleeding but breathing. Jonas was waiting near the tree line, engine running, looking like a man who just watched the world tilt sideways. You got it? I asked. He nodded. Every bit. We didn't speak for a while. Back on the road, I watched the trees blur past. The truth was out there now, but so was something worse. Sean didn't just bury me. He sent killers to finish the job. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. This was about justice. And I'd just declared war. If Sean wanted me gone, he'd have to do it himself. And I was about to give him the chance. Ellipsis. I didn't knock. I waited until after dark, parked 2 blocks down, and walked the rest of the way. The neighborhood was quiet, too quiet. In that way where silence feels like it's hiding something. Emily opened the door before I could lift my hand. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there, frozen, like her body hadn't caught up to what her eyes were seeing. It's me, I said softly. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the door. She hadn't aged the way I had. Still beautiful, still composed, but her eyes, they carried something heavier than time. Come in, she said. I stepped inside. The house smelled the same, coffee, lavender, wood polish, but everything had shifted an inch to the left. New curtains, a different rug, my old chair gone, a life I once knew, now curated by someone else. Emily walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. She didn't ask if I wanted anything. I didn't sit. How long did you know? I asked. She set the glass down slowly. About you being alive? I nodded. She looked down. 5 years ago, a letter came, no return address, just said, he's not dead, he's not free. And you didn't tell anyone? I told Sean. Of course she did. And he told you what? I asked. That it was false, that it was someone playing a cruel joke. And you believed him. I wanted to. That hurt more than I expected. I needed you, I said. Her eyes welled, but she blinked it away. You were gone, Jack, for 13 years. No calls, no letters. They told me you died in an explosion, that they couldn't recover your body. They lied. I know that now. You had a funeral. She nodded. And then you married my brother. She flinched at that, just slightly. Sean was there. He was kind. He was present. Eli needed. Don't, I snapped. She stopped. I softened my voice. Don't use him as a reason. Not now. Silence filled the room like smoke. Thick, suffocating. I didn't plan any of this, she said. Neither did I. She walked toward the living room, picked up a photo from the shelf. Eli. My son, smiling with a missing front tooth, holding a baseball bat. I look at him, she whispered, and I see you, every day. Does he know? No. I walked over and looked at the photo. I want to see him. She turned to me, hesitant. He's out with Sean. Of course he is. I stepped back. I'm not here to take him. Or you. Then why are you here, Jack? I looked at her. To remember what I lost. And to decide if I can forgive the people who let it happen. Her voice cracked. Do you hate me? I didn't answer right away. I don't know what I feel anymore. I said, I came back looking for justice. But now, I see a family that was built out of the rubble. And I don't know whether I'm supposed to destroy it, or protect it. She stepped closer. If I could go back. But you can't, I cut in, and neither can I. We stood in that space between past and present. Two people who once loved each other in a world that no longer existed. Finally, I pulled something from my jacket pocket. A small photo. Faded. The three of us. Me in uniform. Emily pregnant. Sean taking the picture. I placed it on the table. I need you to do something, I said. She nodded slowly. When the time comes, and it will come, I want you to take Eli and leave Bozeman. Go far. Don't ask questions. Just go. Why? Because Sean made choices, and I'm about to answer them. Her voice trembled. Are you going to kill him? I looked at her. I don't know yet. Whatever came next, I couldn't undo what had been done, but I could make damn sure it never happened again. Ellipsis. I drove out to a truck stop off I-90, somewhere between nowhere and less than that. The night was cold, bitter enough to remind you you're alive, but I didn't mind. I parked near the edge of the lot, away from the glow of the diner lights. Trucks rumbled in the distance, engines humming low like sleeping beasts. I had one name. Carmen Voss. Independent journalist, ex-military, the kind of woman who'd pissed off enough editors and generals to end up on every watch list, and still kept digging. Jonas vouched for her, said if anyone could get the story out before it vanished, it was her. We agreed on a 10-minute meet. She arrived in a red Subaru. 10 minutes late. Paranoia? Or protocol? Carmen stepped out wearing jeans, boots, and a puffer jacket, hair tied back, no makeup, the look of someone who didn't care to impress, only survive. She scanned the lot, saw me, walked over. You're Jack Remmer? She asked. I used to be. She didn't blink. Show me. I handed her a flash drive. The last copy. Fort Pendleton files. Ghost code operations. Names. Directives. Everything Sean tried to erase. She pulled a small device from her jacket, plugged in the drive, and let the data stream across the tiny screen. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her pupils tighten. This is heavy, she said. Yeah. Where did you get it? I lived it. Carmen looked at me carefully now, like reassessing the shape of the man in front of her. Why me? Because the rest are either bought, compromised, or dead. She nodded, almost grimly. What do you want? Drop it everywhere, all at once. Make it too loud to silence. She unplugged the drive and slipped it into a pocket stitched into the lining of her coat. You understand what happens after this? I shrugged. I'm already dead, remember? She almost smiled. Almost. You'll need to disappear again, she said, or fight. I'm not running anymore. We parted without another word. She drove east. I stood in the wind and watched her taillights vanish. By morning, it began. Leaked files. Encrypted documents. Whistleblower tags. Online forums lit up like Christmas. Reddit threads. Dark web chatter. A podcast episode dropped by noon with a scrambled voice reading lines from the Ghost Code protocols. A blurry photo of me appeared, taken from a training archive nobody was supposed to have. Then came the message boards. Echo 17 is real. They erased soldiers. There's more out there. By nightfall, I was no longer invisible. I was a problem. And problems get erased. The black SUV came first. Parked across from the motel. Windows tinted darker than law allows. They didn't get out, just sat there, engine running. Watching. Waiting. I left the back way. Jonas called me at 2 a.m. They scrubbed my feed, he said. Everything. My channels. My backups. Gone. Get out of town, I told him. What about you? They know I'm here. Might as well let them come. He paused. You sound ready. I am. Because this wasn't about hiding anymore. I'd spent 13 years buried under someone else's lie. Now the lie was burning. Let them come. Let them try. This time, I'd be waiting. Ellipsis. I didn't sleep the night before it happened. I sat in a rented storage unit on the outskirts of town. Surrounded by scraps of what used to be my life. A disassembled rifle. A duffel of burner phones. The last photo I took before deployment. Emily, pregnant, me, half in uniform, half out the door. There was no going back to that man. There was no going back. Period. By dawn, I had a plan. Jonas was already gone. He left a message, short and clipped. Off-grid. Stay sharp. It felt like goodbye. I burned what was left of my files. No backups. No digital footprints. Just one last bullet in the chamber. Sean wanted me erased. I was going to make it personal. I started with the Ghost Code Field Lab, an offshoot hidden beneath a water treatment plant 30 miles south. Jonas had flagged it months ago, but we never had proof it was active. Until now. I watched it for 2 days. Same cars, same guards, all under fake utility uniforms. At 11:42 a.m., I cut the power. By 11:46, I was inside. They didn't expect me, not really. They'd been chasing a ghost. And ghosts don't knock. I neutralized 2 guards without killing them. Took their gear. Moved like I used to, precise. Silent. Fast. The server room was underground. Same sterile architecture. Same humming machines. Same smell of bleach and forgotten guilt. I set the charges at the base of the cooling units. Timed for 90 seconds. That was all I needed. On the wall, taped above a desk. White Winter. Final directive. Execute Echo 17. Signature. S. Remmer. He'd made it official. I took the printout, folded it, slid it into my jacket. Then I ran. The explosion was surgical, just enough to melt the data, not enough to alert local news. But the message was clear. Your erasure failed. Now I was erasing you. That night, I called Sean. He picked up on the first ring. Where? He asked. Dinner. Tomorrow. You choose the place. He said nothing for a beat. Then. You want to talk? I want to end this. Another pause. You're not bringing a weapon? I'm bringing the truth. He hung up. The restaurant was upscale. Clean tablecloths. Warm lighting. The kind of place that pretends it can drown out guilt with red wine and polite conversation. I arrived first. I didn't eat. Sean walked in 5 minutes late, crisp in his civilian suit, looking every bit the man in control. He sat across from me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I slid the folded directive across the table. He didn't touch it. You win, he said. That easy? I underestimated how loud you could get. And how fast. You didn't come here to surrender. No, he admitted. I came here to offer you a way out. I leaned back. Let's hear it. You disappear. For real this time. Leave the country. New identity. New life. I'll even fund it. In exchange for what? You shut up. You stop digging. You stop burning things down. And if I don't? He smiled. Small and tired. You won't live long enough to regret it. I looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't the brother I'd grown up with. He was a man carved out of compromise. Piece by piece. Until nothing soft remained. I stood. Dropped the directive into his wine glass. This is your last chance to do the right thing, I said. He didn't respond. I walked out into the cold. 30 minutes later, the restaurant lost power. The backup generator failed. I'd rigged it. And somewhere in that dark, elegant dining room, Sean knew the war was no longer silent. It was personal. Sean had made me disappear. Now I'd make him wish I'd stayed gone. Ellipsis. The sun hadn't risen yet. Bozeman lay quiet, wrapped in the kind of silence that only comes before something breaks. I stood on the hill behind the house, the one with the oak tree we used to climb as kids. From here, I could see it all. Emily's porch light. Eli's soccer ball in the yard. The same swing I built all those years ago. It looked peaceful. It looked like a lie. In my pocket, I held 2 things. A passport under a fake name. And a loaded Glock 19. I had already destroyed Ghost Code. I had already exposed the truth. Now there was one piece left. Sean. He called me at dawn. Where are you? He asked. I didn't answer. I sent Emily and Eli away, he said. That caught me off guard. Where? Somewhere safe. You asked her to leave, didn't you? I told her to protect Eli. And she listened, he said. She's always listened to you. There was something raw in his voice. Not regret, not apology, just exposure. What do you want? Sean? You already took everything. I laughed quietly. You took it first. Silence. Then. Are you going to kill me? I haven't decided. Then let's meet one more time. He named the place. The lake house where our father died. I knew he'd go alone. Because this was never about politics anymore. This was about two brothers who had broken each other into pieces. The lake was still frozen when I got there. The trees creaked in the wind, and the sky threatened snow. I stepped onto the dock slowly, the way you do when you're not sure it'll hold your weight. Sean was waiting inside. No guards, no suits, just him. We didn't shake hands. I set the gun on the table between us. He looked at it. I deserve that, he said. I didn't bring it for you. I replied, I brought it for me. That made him look up. I came here to decide, I said, whether to end you, or end this. He sat back in the old wooden chair our dad used to fall asleep in. You've already won, Jack. No, I said, there are no winners here. He exhaled slowly. I didn't know what to do, he said, when they said you were gone. When they showed me what you had become in that lab, I thought I was protecting the family. Protecting her. You were protecting yourself. He nodded, maybe both. I studied him. He looked tired. Smaller than I remembered. I picked up the gun. He flinched. I ejected the magazine. Set it beside him. This isn't mercy, I said. This is the last thing I'll ever give you. I turned to leave. He didn't call after me. He didn't need to. Some wounds don't close. They just stop bleeding. Emily never came back to Bozeman. She left a note with Jonas. Unsigned. He knows. He understands. He'll grow up with the truth. I didn't reply. I just watched from a distance one last time, Eli laughing on a beach somewhere warmer. Chasing waves with a soccer ball. Sunlight in his eyes. A future not built on ghosts. I boarded a bus going south. No destination listed. No questions asked. At the last stop, I left behind everything. Wallet. ID. The last remnants of who I'd been. Except for one thing. The photo. Emily, Eli, me. From a life that had ended, and yet somehow, still mattered. I folded it once, slid it into my coat, and walked into the dark. Not to hide, but to begin again.